and other stuff we love.
Hey, you, beer me, beer us together naturally.
No, make every word beer. Beer, 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 beer.
Please welcome the man who carries the G 24/7.
It is very clear that everyone must say the Bengals suck.
From Cheesehead TV, Aaron Nagler.
As always, joined as always by Bill Schmid there at the greater iHeart Metroplex in the Milwaukee area. Bill, the Packers are in the divisional round. There are 8 teams remaining in the NFL. Still something to play for. The Packers are one of them. How the hell are you, brother?
I'm feeling very, very good. I'm feeling much more enthused about pro football than I anticipated being on January 16th because, Nags, I didn't think there was a chance. My young son is going to celebrate his first birthday coming up on Sunday. January 21st. How about that? The fiance has been wanting to plan the first birthday party because apparently now that's a big deal. Big deal. Got to have a big, huge first birthday party, right?
Yeah.
I said back in October, probably start planning that. It should be okay. Like whichever day you want to plan it for, that should be all right. And then all of a sudden in the middle of the third quarter, I get a text saying, so when are we going to be able to do this party? Well, you're going to have to wait a little bit because this team's playing January 20th, 21st. We'll have to figure out which one it is. Saturday night's special. Saturday night's all right for fighting out in Santa Clara. I am ready to rock with this one, Nags.
I mean, I'm keep pinching myself. I can't wipe the smile off my face. I'm just sitting here saying there's meaningful Packers football in January. Let's go. I mean, I understand they keep pushing things back. The season gets later and later, but I love the fact that, it's cold. There's snow on the ground and the Packers are still playing. It's so great. It's so great. And to do so by beating Jerry Jones and that terrible franchise down in Dallas, it's just gorgeous. It's a beautiful life. We're living a beautiful life.
These are the good old days.
They are. We're in them.
To remember, we're in them. And last year, while we were doing the little podcast that could beer and ball, Nags, you looked over at me that one day and said, "I'm at the point where I've surrendered all hope. This is all I care for. Beat Chicago, beat Minnesota, beat Dallas."
Yep.
Okay. Beat Minnesota. Check. Beat Chicago. Check.
Check.
Beat Dallas. Check. This is a 3-week heater that you're not coming down from. I mean, this is,
come on,
for Packers fans, this is absolute rocket fuel, 6 to midnight throughout the entire week. And if you go out there and then oust the one team that has now been venom and has just been absolute rat poison for the last 15 years to your organization, you can finally hand them a fat L in the playoffs. Wow. That will be about as satisfying as it could possibly be for a Packers fan here in 2023-24.
I saw a great article this morning on The Athletic from their 49ers guy, Matt Burrows, who compared the 49ers to the Death Star. And I think this is a perfect analogy, right? This ragtag group of rebels, collectively known as the Green Bay Packers, heading to attack the Death Star, which is a powerful weapon and very formidable, but does have little cracks, little vulnerabilities. And Jedi in training, Jordan Love, ready to take his X-Wing down the trench and blow this thing to kingdom come. I cannot wait for this game. I am so excited. I mean, no one expects the Packers to win yet again, much like no one expected the Packers to go down to Dallas and win. So just keep betting against us. We're going to beat the 49ers. I am excited.
So this is a little bit early for us to be just flipping the page on over. At what point did you flip the page? Because now, granted, we had the whole third and fourth quarter to start getting excited for the divisional round, because after the Darnell Savage pick,
that was it.
Bro,
that was
43-33, Nags. Time of dagger, 43-33. A minute 27 to go in the third quarter is when Wayne Larrivee, who will join us at 1:30, tossed that dagger through the heart of the Dallas Cowboys and finished him. And for it to be that early and that fine, that clean cut of this thing is over. Everybody can walk on out, enjoy the exits, and hope you packed warm, because it's going to be a cold walk out to your cars at AT&T Stadium. We had a lot of time to enjoy that win. Now start going on over into a short week and get ready for Saturday night.
I will say, though, I got to admit, I do have to admit, I turned the page pretty much at the Savage pick six. We are winning this game. Like, I was ready. Let's go. Until,
Love that.
I will say, until Matt pulled his starters, and then the Cowboys walked down the field a couple times, and
Uh-oh.
was getting. My girlfriend literally texted me live while I was still on the watch party and said, "Why do you look so dour? You're winning." And I had to tell her, I was like, "Babe, Seattle. I watched the Packers punt a trip to the Super Bowl in Seattle in 2014. Nothing will make me smile until it says 0 on the clock." At that point, I do admit, I did get a little kind of,
Just got a little hairy, a little dicey.
Bad visions,
Yeah.
bad visions. But
as you could say, it's getting a little hairy here, a little dicey, a little dicier than we would have liked it to get.
Great disturbance in the force at that moment. I was not feeling it. But then Preston Smith, sacked the quarterback, and party was on. So I'm down. I am down.
It is now. I'm glad that you are here to help me out with the Death Star analogy, because I'm just not as fluent.
You're not a nerd
in Star Wars, but I've been to Star Wars land. Been to Star Wars land at Hollywood Studios, so I'm pretty much in, and held a lightsaber at one point.
Right.
But they are a team, Nags, that feels like the unstoppable force, but I kind of think like Dallas, maybe not to the extent that Dallas had been, because the last 4 weeks of the regular season, not to say you could see the Cowboys getting it handed to them on a silver platter as thoroughly as the Packers did, but I mean, you've seen the Niners look a little bit more vulnerable in weeks past than they did from, say, weeks 11 through 16, where they were just freight training everybody else in the NFL. At Ravens game, took something out of them. Obviously, they rested everybody and rested their starters in the Week 18 game, but they haven't necessarily been the impenetrable force that they were there in the midseason. At least it feels like to me on the outside looking in.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, just like every team, you go through ups and downs, hills and valleys, and it's a long season, and you want to be playing your best ball going into, say, late December, into the playoffs, and the Packers certainly are doing that. When you look at the 49ers, you do have to wonder about the fact that they have had all this time off. I mean, essentially, especially their frontline guys, with having sat most of their starters in that Week 18 game, and then they have the only bye in the NFC. It's been a while since those guys have taken the field. Now, that obviously helps as far as rest and recuperation, dealing with injuries and things like that. But we've certainly seen over the years where that has come back to bite some teams, as far as maybe not like that causes them to lose, but it certainly has offered, a little evidence of rust, guys not being quite in sync the way they were during the regular season. So I do think the Packers can go out there and try to take advantage of this team early. Because, look, they're excellent. They're amazing. They got the number 1 seed for a reason. It's a very, very good football team. But the Packers are playing their best football at the exact right moment. And that gives them way more than a puncher's chance. I'm fascinated to see, obviously, you look at what happened in Dallas. Packers really got the running game going, taking the ball first, marching down the field, and nearly 8-minute drive, putting the first touchdown on the board. That played a significant role, right? And then Jair's interception, enabling them to go up 2 scores early, really take control of the game. That's your recipe, right? That's what we've seen in their best performances, whether it was against Detroit, whether it was against the Chiefs. This has been the most successful formula. I hope they're able to do that against the Niners. My one little kind of, I don't know about that, is we have rarely seen any iteration of the Packers, whether it's under Matt LaFleur or even back when McCarthy was around. This modern group has not been able to block the 49ers on either side of the ball. They haven't been able to get movement. They haven't been able to protect. They haven't been able to really kind of operate up front. And that, to me, is the biggest kind of worry, if you will. It's like, I got great ideas for being able to take advantage of their secondary. I got great ideas about being able to stay ahead of the sticks with the running game. But to do any of that, you got to be able to win the line of scrimmage, and they have never been able to do that against the 49ers in this modern age.
Yeah, and the Niners just continue to get better up front. Like they just continue to get better.
Kind of
and better
annoying.
guys.
Kind of
Javon
annoying.
Hargrave comes over from the Eagles last year and has been an absolute disruptor right in the middle. Oh, by the way, department, Nick Bosa standing there on line one waiting. And trade deadline time, they just add Chase Young. So like they got so many get off the bus guys, Nags, that their first bus is loaded with dudes that strike a little bit of fear in you. And it starts out with, you talk about the line of scrimmage. I mentioned the defensive lineman. When Trent Williams walks onto a football field dancing to that massive boombox that they walk out with him and Debo, like that's an intimidation factor on a different level. He's one of the scariest looking human beings in pro football, and rightfully so. Like one of the best players in pro football, one of the best athletes in pro football. But if you're able to just hold up a little bit up front, just enough, I think that over the last 8-9 weeks, you mentioned the Chiefs game, you mentioned the Lions game. This past weekend, how they were able to neutralize, a tough way of putting it. He was back there a couple of times, but they had something. Right? They had something for Micah Parsons, right? And they've had something for him each of the last 2 times. I'm excited to see how they try to devise a plan to attack Bosa. That it's just,
which is easily said, right? It's very easily said, but it's real tough to do.
The difference is, and I'm excited to hear, John Kuhn's going to talk about this a lot with us tomorrow. I'm excited to hear how Tucker Kraft factors into the Nick Bosa equation, because if there's somebody that you have now on your being a supplement to your offensive line, being able to chip, be able to block the way he has, I imagine 85 is going to get a couple of good pieces of 97 there for the 49ers coming up on Saturday night.
He absolutely has to. And that whole group has to be involved. You talk about the offensive line in quotes, protecting your quarterback. It's all about the entirety of the group. Protection unit wise, whether it is the line or the tight ends or the running backs, everybody. And you mentioned Parsons. They did have, yet again, much like they did last year, an excellent plan to minimize his ability to take over the game. And that included the running backs. How many times? There were more than a handful where, he makes a move or gets around a guy, even, Zach Tom, it doesn't matter who was going up against, but there is Aaron Jones to step up and make sure that Jordan Love's got the time necessary to make the read, make the throws. They were, I'm not going to say flawless in protection, but they were damn close. I mean, you got to tip your cap every once in a while. They get paid too. Parsons is an amazing talent. They got really talented players, but man, as far as the plan and executing it to enable Jordan Love to operate, I mean, lights out job in Dallas. I'm hoping we see a similar kind of output in San Francisco this weekend.
That shot that Aaron Jones puts on Parsons, and then
so
he
good.
Immediately
and Parsons over to he came out of the game. He had to go out of the game for a snap or two.
Man,
well done, Aaron. Love it.
We'll talk about this throughout it. The recipe, it feels easier to compare what they did this past week to Detroit because it's on the road.
Yep.
But the script of it, Nags, followed a little bit more Chiefs-like for them to be able to just drain the clock,
grind it out,
and quickly put the pressure on that opponent offense. The Chiefs answered the bell with a drive of their own, got 3 points, and kept it tight. Packers were able to take that ball away quickly, and they held that pressure on Dallas, and a diamond didn't come out of that pressure over there from Big D, which was just beautiful, beautiful to see.
Gorgeous. And, look, the environments were similar to the Detroit game as far as being out indoors on the road.
Oh,
right?
fair. Yeah.
I'm keeping a watchful eye on the forecast out there in San Francisco. Looks like right now we could have a mud bowl on our hands. A lot of rain supposed to be in the forecast for Saturday night. So
yeah, 5 straight days of rain. Tough.
We will
tough
see.
Out there.
That changes a lot. That changes a lot.
But who does it help? Nags will tell us that. And I'll tell you one guy that it doesn't help. Sideline reporter John Kuhn, not very excited for the 55-degree rain that could be coming on Saturday night as the Packers go and fight the 49ers. Can Jordan Love do something that Aaron Rodgers never was able to do and beat the 49ers in the playoffs? Aaron Nagler will tell you exactly how he does. And you can ask Aaron Nagler a question live on the radio at 414-799-1973. We got a couple of super chats queued on up here that we're getting to in segment number 2. Off and run and carry the G radio on the game.
Here the G Radio rolls on with Billy Schmid and Aaron Nagler coming to you live from New York City. Bill, my goodness, Aaron Jones has absolutely taken over everything he's done over the course of the last 4 games. Coming off a game of 21 attempts, 118 yards, 5.6 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. Came just short of tying that 4 touchdown output he had the first time he was down there. I mean, I love watching him come alive in Dallas. The way he instantly found his brother after that first touchdown.
It's amazing.
Football. You just love that, when they are in that building, he's coming to play and he's taking names and he's kicking ass. I love it.
It's part of the reason why I really do. I really do give a lot of immense credit to guys that are personnel dudes in the NFL that can be able to eliminate and block out the personal side of it, because personally, I love that dude. Like, I mean, there aren't a whole lot of human beings that you listen to in whatever walk of life you associate with, right? Ours is sports, and we're in this all the time. You're talking about hyper competitive human beings, like some of the most elite in their class and world-class athletes throughout it. Rarely do you get somebody that talks with the same kind of levity and understanding and, frankly, just perspective that Aaron does. And to watch him succeed just from the personal level is always gratifying. Like, I just enjoy watching him have success. That will be wherever and whatever he ends up doing in his life. Now, when you throw on a G and it's going up against the star in Dallas, dude, it just makes it so much better. The video that Inside the NFL has that I think airs tonight is, I mean, you talk about 6 to midnight, Nags. I mean, that is that freaking meme just skyrocketing to the moon when Jaden Reed is dapping up Aaron Jones on the sideline saying, dude, I block for you any day of the week, man. No, like, seriously. I'm upset with myself when I don't, because of how good of a dude you are. That's the kind of guy you want leading your football team. And you can do that from whatever position you play. You can do that if you're the punter. You can do that if you're the quarterback. You can do that if you're the pass rusher. And you damn well can do it when you're the running back running for 100 yards plus in each of the 4 games that have now pushed you to this point, which is the divisional round of the playoffs. I mean, he is playing some of his best ball in his career right now. But you mentioned Jerry World. Rashawn Gary said, dude, I know what happened last time you were in this building. Welcome home, young man. Welcome home. We're going to need another one of those performances, and we got one.
Isn't it kind of funny how the injury to A.J. Dillon has somewhat almost forced Matt LaFleur to give Aaron Jones 20 carries a game?
Yeah. Like, Armin brought that up to me earlier today, and I hadn't thought about it that way yet.
It's kind of funny because we've seen how effective he's been. Now, obviously, he missed a boatload of time throughout this season with injuries, starting with a hamstring and then dealing with everything else. But now to get him fresh at the end of the year without much, wear and tear on the legs, so to speak, you see what a difference he makes as a full-time contributor. I mean, I don't know what the future holds, but man, the offense just goes to a whole other level when he is involved. Both, I mean, moving the football, getting down to the red zone, etc., but inside the red zone. He's so effective down there, and it boggles my mind that these last couple seasons he hasn't been utilized in goal-to-goal situations, let alone inside the 20. He's so good. He has such a great nose for the goal line. You saw it again on Sunday. I hope we see, at least a couple of attempts and a couple of chances for him in San Francisco, because I have rarely seen a guy who is so good and effective at finding daylight. Now, some of the runs he had a huge lane to run through, but I think on the first couple touchdowns, he has to have second effort or find a little crease. And he's so good at that. It's so great to see him back contributing on a full kind of scale attack. He's just on another level from pretty much everyone else.
That's the best way to put it. Like, he's just on another level right now. And Nags, I don't think that you can eliminate the fact that he has not played a large amount throughout the entirety of the season to why he is so good right now and why he feels so fresh. And it's always been one of the most difficult balancing acts for Packers fans in his entire career. It's one of the reasons why Aaron Jones, I still believe, is going to go down as one of the most discussed players in Packers history, because even while he was the 4th or 5th round pick that people didn't necessarily know if he could play or not, you're like, well, every time he gets the ball, good things happen. So why don't we give him the ball more than 10 times a game? Well, then he gets the ball 20 times and then he gets hurt. Well, if we just gave him 15 touches, then it'd be okay. Like, he has been discussed and his workload has been heavily scrutinized, I think, for both regimes. And ever since he started, and now it's a year that you didn't have him available for the majority of the year, where you're riding him the most at the most important time. Like, we had a super chatter earlier on here today. Mike said, if it's a mud bowl, I hope we get Quadzilla back. Yeah, sure. I hope you have your full complement of players, no doubt about it. But I don't want it to bite into what Aaron Jones is getting right now, because even if, Nags, it is wet, it is sloppy, it is gross, he still knows where he wants to go. And the defense still has to try to counter that in those elements. So I'm okay, whatever the elements are, giving 33 the ball and seeing what happens.
I like Mike saying he hopes they get Quadzilla back. I mean, if we're talking hopes, I hope Edgar Bennett can suit up. I mean, you want to mutter. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, the Raiders season is over. Let's get him in a Packers uniform. Let's get him out there. Best
John
mutter I
Brockington on the one. I mean, like,
saw in my life.
We can find a couple decent ones here if we're going to try to go on in here with hopes of who could be able to help you out now.
Nothing but hope. Speaking of super chats, Thomas sent us one earlier saying, the one thing I love about this game coming up is that it is as equally important to Matt to go and win this game as it is to the fans. Now, it's always dangerous to kind of assume intent or what guys are thinking or feeling, but I gotta, you know, kind of agree there. I have to think this is personal for LaFleur. Don't ever forget when they did go out there on that Thursday night when the 49ers were all banged up. One of the, I think the only time that the Packers have gone to San Francisco and won in this iteration of, you know, LaFleur versus Shanahan. And that second. It's happened two times. It's happened 2 times. This is the first time. We got that very terse handshake between LaFleur and Shanahan. You know, and we know they're friends, but there was certainly some tension there. And the reports about Shanahan calling about Rodgers' availability and Matt not want to talk about that and things, you know, there's, I'm sure, much like most good friends, there's friendship, but there's competition as well, you know? And I think, this is probably somewhat personal for Matt.
All these guys hold, and I say all these guys, I'm thinking of the Mike McDaniels, Matt LaFleur, the list goes on and on. Sean McVay would be in that conversation. Yep. Zach Taylor probably somewhere in that conversation as well. Bobby Slowick soon to be, as he'll get a job here coming up soon. Like, they all owe something and will talk very glowingly and have a debt of gratitude to Shanahan, but they want to beat his ass every single time that they line up there, right? Like, I mean, every single time.
How can you not?
And you got a play sheet, Nags, and I'm going up against his team, and I'm remembering all those times that he told me to stay in here till 3:30 in the morning, drawing up all the run plays when I was quality control to make sure that we had that in here by the meeting when they were going to walk in at 5, even though I know the guy was going to come here at 4 and be upset that I didn't have it done yet, right? Like, so there's reasons that you can find to want to beat the old boss, even though he gave you a great opportunity to start in this business. But I think of the 21 handshake even more than the beating they put on him, which against the 29ers that night on a Tuesday night when I think everybody was gone for San Francisco on that Thursday night game.
Yeah, they were beat up.
When they beat him in 21 on Sunday Night Football on the walk-off kick from Crosby, LaFleur didn't even smile on the walk-on out. I mean, he gave that fist pump. He stared right past Shanahan the whole time, and that was right after the report was that he wasn't talking to him because he called about Rodgers' availability. I mean, this is the storylines are fantastic. We've been joking about it. NFL scriptwriters in your bag all year long.
Year long.
Big time in your bag to have Brett Favre not be able to beat the Cowboys and dominate the San Francisco 49ers. Aaron Rodgers dominate the Cowboys, not be able to beat the 49ers. Love can do it each in the first 2 games that he plays in the playoffs. That's a vanquishing of playoff demons, Nags, for the last 30 years that lines up too quintessentially for it to just be happenstance. This stuff is all fantastically written.
It's so well written. I mean, I just love the idea of Jordan Love having sat the way he did, and then the year beginning so kind of rough on offense, and now he's playing as well as any quarterback in the league, any single one, especially any of the ones that are left. And the fact that he could do this, he could go out to San Francisco and lead the Packers to a postseason victory. I just love the idea of Jordan Love being like, what? Like, it's hard?
Yeah. This football that you guys are talking about being difficult?
What? What are you guys talking about?
This is your football? Okay, I'll show you how to play this.
I love Mike here also saying, hey, boys, in my opinion, our wide receiver core / tight end core is the best core we've had since 2011. Am I wrong or no? Nags, does Olive have a dog yet? No.
Good question.
Olive does not have a dog yet for reasons I have stated many times. But as far as the wide receiving core and the tight end core, I mean, they're talented and the ceiling is insanely high. A lot of ball game left, though. We'll see. I mean, we know that they're productive right now. There's zero doubt about that. But we'll see. And I said this to Zabe this morning. I mean, I am very excited. I'm very bullish. I think the Packers have a bright future. But you never know. And that's why you have to seize the moment. That's why it isn't, we're just happy to be here. That's why it's like, hey, win 2 games and you're in the Super Bowl with a chance for a title.
Yeah, might as well do this thing now.
That sounds insane because it is. But, man, these chances don't just, walk on by every year. Like you have got a moment here. You've got lightning in a bottle. And this young wide receiving core, this young tight end core, they certainly are coming along. And they certainly have gelled way faster than I think anybody expected them to. That's why you have to try and take advantage of this moment.
I might give credit to the wrong person. I thought it was Chris Roth that asked the question yesterday, kind of talking about that to LaFleur of like, how do you weigh this of feeling like you have the moment right in front of you and you know that it's very precious, that these chances don't just come along very often, while not like psyching out and taking away maybe your best advantage with the young team. Nags is realizing that this is pretty crazy to think about. Like, some of these guys haven't played 20 NFL games and you're 2 games away from the Super Bowl. Like, think about it that way. Your 20th game in the NFL could be the Super Bowl. And you don't want to necessarily flood that into the memory bank too much or into the mentals. However, you want to be able to be grateful in the moment and understand the gravity of the moment. I think they're in such a beautiful spot to feel that everything is in front of you while knowing that you would assume your better days are ahead of you still. Like, I liked his point yesterday, that being Matt LaFleur, when talking about the young receiving group. I talked to Jaden Reed and Christian Watson yesterday, and you would have thought they had a 100-yard game. Now,
yes.
maybe a little bit of good Packer pandering, which we love, right. Coach. Let's
all
keep
about
pumping that on out there. Yeah,
well done, Coach.
We're going to sell a lot of 9 and 11 jerseys with those kind of conversations.
Packers people returns.
Yeah, but I mean, you want to hear that, and I do think there's something to the effect of Nags. They all believe that their time is going to come, but you do it in the playoffs, and Dontavian Wicks gets a TD this week. He might have 0 targets next week. Jaden Reed had no catches. He might have 6 for 90. So, like, at some point, it's going to come back around to you. The change in his offense, though, many people like to point towards Jordan in being able to unlock a lot more of what you wanted to do and how your offense looks. I think the bigger part, and LaFleur was talking about it a little yesterday, it's not just always one guy. It's their pass catching room allows them to do so much more offensively, not just the quarterback, but, God bless him. You're not, throwing the ball 75 times to Allen Lazard anymore, right? Like you substituted Jaden Reed for an aging Randall Cobb. You added in Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave for the skeletal remains of Robert Tonyan and Mercedes Lewis. Like, and you love those guys, but that's an upgrade on the field. Yep. And there's not necessarily a shock that the offense looks a little bit more explosive.
I mean, it goes back to what John said this summer, right? John Kuhn, that first couple practices, and he said, I think he tweeted it out, this team has looked is more explosive and athletic than I've seen in years. Mm-hmm. And you've seen that play out this season without question. And it's funny watching everyone compare, last season with Rodgers and this season with Jordan. It's like, okay, now I understand we're all moving past the Aaron Rodgers era, but let's not pretend that Aaron wouldn't have made some hay with this wide receiving group. And I know you can make the jokes about the hand signals and all of that for good reason.
And it figured it out
because it's freaking hilarious. But yeah, there's a lot of upside here and a lot of talent that I'm sure Aaron's sitting here going, that would have been nice if I had gotten that my last year, but been pretty good instead of the skeletal remains of Big Dog and Robert Tunyon. Though Aaron certainly had his hand in those guys being
one
around.
of the reasons they were there, no doubt about it, right? And that's where I understand the clapback to him, but there was no Jaden Reed on this football team in 2022. There was nobody that explosive to be throwing the football to. I do think number 12 would have made it work, but I like that we're having number 10 making it work this time.
I love that we're having number 10 making it work. Uncultured Barbarian, which is one of our long-time viewers on Cheesehead TV.
Uncultured Barbarian. I like that nickname.
Great super chat. Nags, if the 49ers are the Death Star, who is our Wedge Antilles? That is an excellent question because I'm trying to work my head around someone who has contributed, someone who has certainly been there down the stretch, but is now not going to be available as we attack the Death Star. Because you remember Wedge had to peel off there because he got hit by one of those TIE fighters behind them. And he has to go, I can't stay with you. Sorry. And then Luke says, steer clear. You can't do any more good back there. Sorry. And then he peels away and it's let him go. Stay on the leader. So who would that be? Someone who has contributed, but is not going to be available here when it matters. I mean, maybe someone who got hurt. Maybe Kingsley Enagbare is your Wedge Antilles.
Well, that could be a good one.
But now he's not going to be available. Just because he got a little banged up. Torn ACL.
Man, poor Wedge. So he didn't get to fight?
Well, I mean, he was there for the start of it, but then
just didn't get to finish it.
He didn't get to finish. He had to take off. He had to leave.
I like Wedge though. He was my favorite character.
That says a lot about you, Billy. He's back. He was back in Rise of Skywalker. He had a cameo. He
dipped on in for one quick one. I like that. That's my style. You stop in for one. I'll stop in for one. Dip on out here after. I'll join you guys for one. Oh, drink. No, just one line. One quick
just
sentence.
one line. One
That's
line.
all I get.
That's good. I'll talk about Lando, and then you'll never see me again. It'll be great.
Think, oh my God, he's gonna be all a part of this one. No. Where's Billy? Already gone. 414.
He had his line.
414-799-1973. We'll take some talk and text line messages as well. You can talk, you can call, you can get your voice heard and ask a question to Aaron Nagler or myself, Billy Schmid. I'd ask Nags a question way before I'd ask myself one, or our listeners across the state and across the world on Cheesehead TV's YouTube page and 97.3 The Game. It's Gary the G Radio.
Care of the G Radio rolling on this Tuesday afternoon. The Packers taking on their old foes, the San Francisco 49ers, on Saturday night. Saturday night, Billy. How are we feeling about a Saturday night game?
Fantastic.
What's your gut reaction to that?
I'm a big fan of the Saturday night special. I'm probably in the minority here. I think it's my favorite time during the divisional round slot, because then on Sunday, if and when the Packers beat the 49ers on Saturday night, after I take Packers OT into the early morning hours of Sunday, wake up a little bit later kickoff on Sunday, right? 2 to 5:30 Central Time, 3 to 6:30 Eastern Time for all those folks watch us there. If you're in the mountains, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that conversion. The good part is I get a little extra sleep on in there. And then you're just waiting to see where you go next. So that's why I like Saturday. You get the win, then get to watch and find your opponent out the next day.
I'm down with it. I love this idea. I love the complete dismissal of the fact that it's a shorter window for the Packers to turn around, after playing 89 snaps on defense.
Yep.
Would have been nice to have that extra 24 hours, but I get you. I feel you. I'm down with it. Let's go.
Everyone's going to, 24 hours to me, Nags, at this point in time is it just like, I know it can be a lot for the healing process and get your body right back. But then again, if you're not feeling better by day 5, then day 6 is not going to be all that much better. If you have not flipped that switch in your brain,
typical coach,
to change that
coach, just dismissing the plight of the players.
Yeah, you make that decision by about Wednesday if you're going to be able to play, right? Like it's clicked in your mind by about Thursday if you're ready to play. And now I got to figure out, okay, so I got 2 days before I'm going to get on out here and go. So whether or not it's Saturday at 7:00 or Sunday at noon. 18 hours. Let's get on out there and play ball.
I'm down with it. I love it. I'm also down with Pat in New Berlin, who's apparently holding on the line. Pat,
he's ready to go.
How are you today?
Hey, appreciate taking the call. Enjoy listening to you guys.
Thank you so much.
We enjoy talking to you.
Just one thing. First of all, I completely agree with Billy. I think Aaron Jones is just an incredibly genuine guy on and off the field. I think it makes it so much more fun to watch him when he is on the field. But you guys made the comment earlier about, how neat it was to have 21 carries. And I don't want to regress. I want to look to the future. But if you remember LaFleur coming back from London after the Giants game last year and saying, we got to get back to the running game. They had either 4 or 5 games in there where between Dillon and Jones, I think they had 38 catches, and 4 of 5 of those games they won, with the only one being that Buffalo game, which went to right to the end of the game. I just hope they keep doing it. I think makes a dramatic difference when he's on the field. And I'll get off and listen to you guys. Appreciate it, you guys. Good job.
Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Pat. Really appreciate the call and the comment. And you're absolutely spot on. The fact that not just when they're kind of utilizing the ground game and trying to get carries for both of those guys. Obviously, the Aaron Jones kind of addition here at the late end of this season has made a world of difference, because don't forget, Jordan and the offense, they were certainly seemingly figuring it out prior to Jones returning. But his return has absolutely elevated them and taken them to another level. And it's not just Jones like making things happen on the ground and putting up all this yardage and scoring touchdowns, though that is great and we love it. It is also helping Jordan Love. The fact that you saw throughout that game on Sunday, there was no key. And you heard, they talked about it on the broadcast when they, met with Dan Quinn during the week. The big problem defenses are having with the Packers right now is not knowing how to key on run or pass. Obviously you're going to get in certain situations like a 3rd and long where you can probably pin your ears back, but it's 1st and 10. You got Jordan under center. You don't know. It could be Aaron Jones gashing you. It could be a play action pass. It could be a bootleg. They've been able to keep defenses off balance while Jones has been there. Really, really impressive work. And I think, big kudos to Matt LaFleur for leaning into it.
It really, Nags, is not so surprising when then you watch the rest of the NFL as to the impact that it has on the quarterback. Like you watched last night and watched Philadelphia.
Last night, I was just going to say, look at last night.
There. Like there's no, and Aikman was beside himself on the broadcast where he's like, can we do something to help him out? Like, guy's got a dislocated finger. They're blitzing 75% of the time, and we're just going to line on up and gun 4 wide and have at it.
4 verts. Like, what are we doing?
Receiver. Yeah.
It was like watching a teenager play Madden. Like, we're just going to spam.
Who's lost twice and is so mad he's just running plays to get over.
Playing stuff. It's either 4 verts or it's the, oh my God, I'm so sick. Can I just, for a second, it's our show. I can say what the hell I want, right?
No doubt about it.
I am so sick of offensive coordinators in the NFL, and you saw it again last night, and the Eagles have been terrible about this. I mean, the obsession with the horizontal throws in the passing game. I mean, Matt LaFleur gets into it every once in a while too, but not to this level. But it's like every week, every game almost. It's like, oh, this time we're going to catch them out. This time this wide receiver screen on the perimeter, it's going to break big, or they're never going to expect it. And then inevitably, the defensive backs break on the ball and they tackle the guy for 1 yard or even a loss. Like, that is not the answer. The defense in the NFL these days is way too athletic, way too well schooled. They know, they study this stuff week in and week out by formation, your tendencies. More often than not, they know when it's coming. And yes, every once in a while, a slip screen, something happens that breaks big, and it renews this kind of, I don't know, this fetishization of the wide receiver screen. It's taken over. And I absolutely want the NFL to burn it with fire. It drives me insane. And especially if that's your answer to getting blitzed. Yeah. Like you saw last night, you got like throwing it into the flat with defensive back sitting right there. Like, what are you trying to do? How is that your answer? That's why Matt should be given all the praise in the world. Think about all these teams they've played that have tried to blitz or pressure Jordan on this kind of like 7-game streak here. Jordan has had answers for all of it. And very precious little of it has been, throw it to, Jaden Reed on a screen out on the perimeter.
Yeah, like, just go now screen here to get the ball out of your hand and go.
You got to give your quarterback some answers. And the fact that Matt has done such a good job with that, again, you got to give him some kudos there.
You do. And Nags, I also think, though, to push back on just one little bit of it, like even think about the New York game where I don't think he handled it as well, right? Like didn't handle the pressure as well. It's one of the reasons why the last 5 weeks has been such a beautiful sight, because it's a learning from that moment. And then 2 weeks later, you're facing one of the biggest blitz teams in football in the Minnesota Vikings, and you handle it flawlessly. So like that part of take the L, learn from it. Coach, let's reassess exactly what the hell we're doing and where are outs? Where is our ability to change this protection at the line of scrimmage? How quickly can we get out of a bad situation? Can it go to the next one? And that's a big trust that Matt has put in Jordan. It's absolutely a lot easier said than done to just be like, well, load up that kid with all this information and let him have those keys to the car. And people say, well, he's just not trusting him. He's not. There's also one of the things of, I'm not trying to overload him. He's only got 34 seconds, right? Because everyone hates it when you take it all the way down to 0. So don't use all 40 seconds of the play clock. You get like 30 some seconds, all right, to figure out exactly what's happening. What am I diagnosing? Where can I get the football? Oh, by the way, maybe I should change it and see if that changes their look. Now I'm only down to 7 seconds. Don't put more on the plate if we have not seen that we're hungry enough to eat up every single bit of our plate. Now we can fill it back on up. He hasn't been handing his plate back with any food on it throughout the week of information, and he is digesting all of it, being able to put it to good use. It's not surprising to me that they've continued, though, to be able to now kind of feast on teams that are making it easier to diagnose what they're doing. Like, oh, okay, sweet. So you're gonna hit me with a cover one blitz here. I know exactly where I'm going. Boom. And that's where the quickness and the suddenness of some of these throws is really becoming more and more special from 10.
No question about it. I got a lot to respond to with that, but I know we got to take a break, and we got a couple
sorry
people
about
waiting
that.
on the line. That's all right. No, and we got a couple people waiting on the line, including Kevin. Kevin, you're up next, so I hope you can stay on the line because keeping with our Star Wars analogy, in the galaxy where Star Wars exists and takes place, they talk about the outer rim. Yes, Tatooine is way far and gone from the center of the galaxy.
Can we say
the
rim?
the outer, the outer rim territories. Kevin is on the Illinois-Wisconsin border, apparently. So he's on the outer rim of Wisconsin. So he's one of the good guys. He's fighting for his life. He's keeping the Packers' love alive on the border, carrying the G, as it were. Kevin, we'll get to you next in the next segment, I promise.
You're dang right. Hour number 2 of Carry the G Radio. Going to be way better than this first hour. First one was pretty hard to beat, Nags. Second one's got Wayne Larrivee. So that's a dub in 30 minutes. It's 97.3 The Game and Cheesehead TV's Carry the G Radio.
Please, you'll be the last to know.
This is Carry the G, a show about everything Packers
Packers back.
and other stuff we love.
Hey, you, beer me, beer us together naturally.
No, make every word beer. Beer, 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 beer.
Please welcome the man who carries the G 24/7
It is very clear that everyone must say the Bears still suck.
from Cheesehead TV, Aaron Nagler.
Carry the G Radio rolling on hour 2. Aaron Nagler keeping it rolling here in New York City. Bill Schmid at the controls in the greater Milwaukee area. And I just want to jump in right away with Kevin, who's been waiting patiently on the border there, the outer rim of Wisconsin. Kevin, thanks so much for holding, man. What's on your mind?
Yeah, thanks guys for letting me come on. What's on my mind is we got past the Cowboys, and that's great. And I even thought we'd get past the Cowboys. I thought they would overlook us and we'd take the fight to them. But now that we got to play San Francisco, are they kind of not the boogeyman? I mean, our coach, being under the Shanahan tree, whether it be our last coach or him, we have not found a way to get past the 49ers in the playoffs. So do you think this young team is going to be able to take the fight to them, because they built Frankenstein. They know what our coach is about, and that scares me. It scares the heck out of me as a Packers fan.
Yeah, I think, the matchup is a tough one. There's no doubt about that. They've earned that number 1 seed. There's zero doubt about it. But I will say, yeah, there have been certainly some really tough losses to the 49ers over the course of the last 10 years or so. But those were very different squads. You're talking about this young team. Yeah, very young team that has never dealt with any of this. I mean, they don't care. They don't, those ghosts aren't haunting them. Now, maybe Matt might see a ghost or two, but even that, it's a very different vibe. It's a very different team. They don't know what they don't know. And it's not like they've, packed away all these horrific memories of going out to San Francisco and losing. This team on the whole, almost to a man, other than maybe a handful of vets, it's just another game. Now, obviously, the stakes are incredibly high, but it's not this impenetrable fortress that they've gone up against again and again and again and come up short. For them, it's just the next challenge. And it is a challenge, but I don't think there's anybody in that locker room who's sitting there thinking, oh, God, the 49ers again.
No, the again part is not happening. It's here's the 49ers. Damn, they're pretty good.
They're pretty good. Yeah.
They got some Avengers over on that side. I mean, like some superheroes when you think of Christian McCaffrey and Fred Warner and company. But none of them have the scars of, as you mentioned, running your head into a wall against them in the playoffs in a number of the years past. Nobody on the roster was on the 13 team, right? At least on the active side of the roster. Aaron Jones is the only guy that's going to touch the football on Saturday night who touched the football Saturday night at Lambeau Field in the 2021 divisional round game, right? Like he's the only guy.
Hopefully this time he runs out of bounds, Billy. I'm still upset about it. Go out of bounds, Aaron.
My buddy and I were talking about that the other
day. I had
to
get that off my chest.
We got into a full-fledged argument about why that game gets so much tighter and so much crazier at that last possession of the first half. And I can dig into if we go for it on fourth down for midfield on your opening possession of the 19 game, maybe it's a little bit different if maybe we don't throw the ball over to Jimmy Graham, instead throw the slant across the middle and get an early first down and keep moving the chains.
2019 NFC Championship game, I literally teased LaFleur about that the first time I ever talked to him at the Combine, because he had got that sound bite. Yeah, it did. It was fun. He did laugh, thank God. But because I said, hey, it's Mr. All Gas, No Break, unless, of course, you're at midfield in the NFC Championship game on your opening drive and you punt.
Damn.
Because look, you can't be saying all gas, no break, and then be punting on 4th and short on the 50 in the NFC Championship game.
When you just stopped them on their opening possession. I mean, you just got to stop, take advantage, keep the chains moving.
Now, I will say, to Matt's eternal credit, Sunday was certainly all gas, no break from taking that opening kickoff to it was fourth quarter. They've got 41 on the board. They could have easily on 4th and 2. down there in the Cowboys' end could have easily kicked the field goal. I tell you what, Mike Holmgren would have kicked the field goal there, not Matt LaFleur.
No,
he was like, no,
touchdown.
we're going for it. And Jordan Love delivers a strike to Romeo Doubs to put him at 48. I mean, that's all gas, no break right there.
And that's where the comparison, Nags, I think, is a little bit cleaner to the game earlier in the year in Detroit, because they kept a foot firmly down to the floorboard that day into the second half. Even when the game felt like it was completely in hand, they were not going to turn it down. Maybe turned it up a little bit hotter than everybody else would have in relying in more on the pass game. But that part of it seems to be something that maybe LaFleur has learned, in a lesson that he's learned. I think that, to me, is the one to the caller's question, Kevin. It was a great call, by the way. Of anybody else that's still thinking about it, I think Matt would maybe agree and then go a couple steps further when he's talked about how he's prepared and went at this challenge of going and coaching against San Francisco, maybe making it a little bit bigger than it has to be, or it was back in the day. McCarthy talked about that this week. Now, granted, it didn't help him at all this week because they destroyed. But he's like, dude, it doesn't help me at all telling my team that I coached there 7 years ago, right? Like none of them care. That doesn't factor into this game at all. So the less he makes a big deal about it, the less of a conversation it's going to be. And then maybe we can focus on finding a way to beat those guys once.
Mike Witt has a super chat that I want to make sure we get to. Honest question. What do you think 12 thought Sunday? This is a good question. I honestly think Aaron's very happy for Jordan, for all the guys he still knows on that team. He still knows a bunch of people in the building. I buy him, when he talks about how excited he is for Jordan, how much he is rooting for him and the guys he still knows. I mean, obviously there's always going to be a bit of awkwardness with his relationship with the Packers, for the foreseeable immediate future. But eventually we know he's going to come back. They're going to retire his number. He's going to be a Packer forever. And, I think he understands that. So, yeah, I think he's probably watching with pride. I don't doubt for a moment that he's looking at Jordan and going, that's the kid who really did everything the right way while I was in town. Now they've given him the keys and he's kicking ass. That's how I think Aaron looks at it. I really do.
I agree. And many people will say, no, there's no way his ego can't handle it. All this.
Right.
I've
gotten those tweets. No doubt.
Yeah. Aaron, I think his ego's just fine. Right. Like I think he knows that he's accomplished quite a bit and that somebody else can go and run it and be happy with it. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I've always thought that his beef with anybody else was always above him. Right. Like he never really seemed to be 100%. Upset with anybody that was below him. Any players didn't necessarily say bad things about him. I don't think he had an issue really with LaFleur, even though we've kind of tried to contrive more and more of this power struggle that was over the offense.
Now they're running Matt's offense.
Yeah.
That's reared its head again. Well, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, and I think Matt at some point he joked, kind of laughed about it when Domofsky asked him. He's like, "Yeah, I didn't really worry about teaching, audibles the last couple of years because this guy knew every single one possible. Like that was okay. I didn't have to teach that part. Doesn't mean that I won't do it or that I wanted to, but I didn't have to. It was okay." I think that there's a lot more cheering for the Green Bay Packers coming from him than there is of, cheering against. I don't think that he wanted the Dallas Cowboys to win the game to somehow spite the people above him. I think he actually is rooting and is quite happy for the people that he knows there.
Totally agree. And then we also have Carl responding with a super chat saying, I believe responding to our discussion earlier about the short turnaround. Carl says, young players will recover quicker. Go Pack.
Dang right.
I mean, there you go. There. Carl has assuaged my angst about the short turnaround.
You got those young bones.
Those young bucks. They don't know. I will say, what's so great about having such a young team? Obviously, you don't have to worry about it this season, though there is probably some elements to play in on Saturday night. But, going forward, you project with me. Live in a land of make-believe for a second with me here, Billy.
I like
so
that.
The Packers are starting to open a window of contention, right? And we got a few years here in front of us where it might be a home playoff game or two, possibly, right? I'm excited to watch young guys running around in the cold, as opposed to old and cold, which is what we've seen the last 2 or 3 times the Packers had a home playoff game. I am ready for some young bucks running around in the cold, not even caring. That's exciting to me because, man, that got old real quick.
You don't want to see the old turtleneck come walking on out there, embracing every bit of
I'm
the
not
element,
saying,
talking
I'm
about it
just
for
saying.
years and years. They're more than anything, Nags.
I'm
youth,
right, Billy. Don't be political. I'm right.
I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I think what I do like about it is, and what I more would lean in on is, has there been a Packers team that has physically handled teams like they have over the last 3 weeks? Because it was a little chillier against that Bears team, but if that was 30 degrees colder, the way they dominated the game up front and handled that, you hadn't seen them physically play that strong in the cold in quite some time. So that, I think, is a little bit of a change up that would be fun and play more into the elements.
And like pulling back from the weather aspect, like forget that, right? Just on to a man almost, but to your point there, the line play on both sides of the ball during this stretch here, kind of starting in that Vikings game, they've owned the line of scrimmage in a way that I'm not used to. I'm not used to with the Packers, like especially on defense. Are you kidding me? And it's not just like getting after the quarterback, though that is nice, but it's the discipline that they've showed in their rush lanes and making sure that more often than not, there's not an avenue for the quarterback to step up and make easy plays down the field. Yes, Dak got loose once on a 3-man rush. That's going to happen, etc. But they've had a really good plan of attack, and they've been very disciplined up front. And yes, there have been, a run here or there. They've gotten gashed, but it hasn't killed them. It hasn't lost them games. They're playing really well up front, again, on both sides of the ball. That is not only promising, it's a welcome change to some of the issues and problems and failures we've seen in the past, because this is probably the highest level we've seen them play up front in a long time this late in the season.
Yeah, and to be able to manhandle teams like they have over the last couple of weeks is very welcome from teams past, also just from games past this year, where I came in here and I do like to defend the boys up front a little bit. I like a lot of times we're only talking about the bad plays. There's not a whole lot more highlighted of my man Rasheed Walker burying a cat 13 yards down the field until we keep talking about it and playing it up for him. They've found some real traction there, and whatever we talk about Josh Myers from all people's grades, wherever we grade and all that, the thing that you don't pick up is his ability to get the protection slid the right way. And one of the reasons why Jordan has stayed so clean is because of the communication he's doing up front.
Working
let's
in
factor
concert,
those into the grades.
Working in concert with the quarterback. It has been a joy to watch. I mean, you look at that touchdown to Wicks. That whole thing is Jordan, Josh on the same page, sorting out the protections. I mean, it allows them to score a big touchdown. I'm down with it, man. I'm right there with you. It has been a joy to watch here this last month or so.
It's incredible. It's such a huge reason as to why they're doing what they're doing and why they've been able to just, more than anything, Negs, peak at the right time. Like it's as cliche as it is, but they're clearly playing their best ball right now.
Absolutely true. 100%.
You know what else is true?
You want to identify that hot team? You'll find it in Green Bay.
Yeah, you're looking at it. You know what else is true? 15 minutes away from Wayne Larrivee, right on this radio program.
That's what I'm talking about.
This show, Voice of the Packers, 15 minutes. We're back before then. Aaron Nagler, Billy Schmid. It's Carry the G on the game.
I'm not listening when you say
Gary the G Radio. I assume that's Wayne's walk-up music. No, maybe not. Perhaps a little bit to go yet.
Yeah, no, this was actually what I always wanted to be my walk-up music when I was playing baseball, but I never made the team at an age like where you had walk-up music, right? They didn't have that for like 7th grade little league.
They have that in T League? Come on.
No, they didn't. So I just was the guy that played the music for everybody else. So I always thought that this would be the one that I would play for myself when I was walking on up, strutting there with my 35-32 Easton Stealth, ready to, try to put one the other way, Nags. Get doubles hitter. More into the gaps.
I was a terrible hitter, but I could pitch. I was a good pitcher.
Ooh, okay. Look at you. The right arm is quite talented for Aaron Nagler.
I got the arm. I was a terrible quarterback, but I was a decent pitcher.
Now you're sandbagging over here about this terrible quarterback. Nonsense.
I was a bad quarterback. We never threw the ball because I was such a bad quarterback.
It's like you were there.
I was the only one who could handle the position, essentially. When we were
okay.
Freshman in high school, sophomore in high school, the Appleton West Terrors, we were not a juggernaut. All right,
you were not a terror for all the other teams rolling through.
No, we most certainly were not terrors to the other Fox Valley programs that we were matched up against on Friday nights. No.
The ball in the Fox Valley is getting really good. I mean, the talent across the state in football and basketball just
when I go back, dude. Now when I go back and I catch out just the very beginnings usually of high school football season. It is fun, man. It is a good time going to some of these Green Bay games. Kimberly, obviously, is always fun to watch. They're a dominant program. Oshkosh North, I saw one of their games.
Yep.
I think it was 2 years ago. Like the ball, they're playing at a much higher level than we were back in the day, Billy. I'll tell you that.
It's a little bit different than it was back when you.
Well, a little bit. We were on I-form, ISO lead.
You just didn't have iPads watching film.
Maybe a slant off of that every once in a while. We were not throwing it around like these kids are now. I'll tell you that. Holy cow!
We'll get you down to Arrowhead and let you sling the rock around a little bit here coming up next season.
Nobody wants to see that. No,
I disagree. I think that's what everybody wants to see.
The kids don't need to be exposed to that. No, that's let's not contaminate the youth.
That's true. They have to watch me try to throw a ball on a consistent basis, which I think might be difficult enough.
See, I mean, they're already dealing with enough. Let's not add.
They already have enough stacked against them trying to be successful.
All right, talk about being successful. We're going to successfully talk to another Green Bay Packers fan here, Chris in Muskego. What's going on, Chris? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. We're going into San Francisco. I don't think Shanahan has seen LaFleur's true offense. I mean, you had Rodgers calling, switching plays every time he went out there. He looked like crap his last game against the 49ers at Lambeau. He looked old and slow, like he didn't even want to play. I think LaFleur is going to have some prizes for Shanahan. I think this is going to be the first opportunity that we're actually going to see LaFleur's offense with all these young guns running wild, and I think we can beat them. And even though San Francisco is showing they're good against the run, but they've also lost several games for not being able to stop the run. So who knows? I mean, what do we got to lose? I think we're.
There you go. I agree, Chris. Yeah. I will say, no, Chris, thanks so much for the call, and I very much agree. As far as Matt has done an incredible job week to week here, this run towards the end of the season, of cooking up stuff that takes advantage of his opponent specifically. And that's why I think we've seen different guys jump up on the stat sheet week to week as far as your pass catchers go, because you don't know as a defensive coordinator who to key on. Where are you rolling coverage? What are you trying to do on first down to try and take away what they do well and what they think they're going to call in those situations? He's done a really good job of kind of making it hard as a defensive coordinator to key on anything, kind of grab onto some tendencies. And yeah, I think the Matt LaFleur's offense stuff is a little overblown, but I do also think it's correct to say that, Matt has firmly put his imprint on the offense now in a way he probably hadn't been able to with Aaron in the building. And that's not a knock on Aaron, I mean, the man won 2 MVPs with Matt LaFleur on the sideline. It was clearly working, but yeah, this is the first time he's been complete control of what he wants to see on the offensive side.
I push back on the play calling side of it, like that being the reason why they were unsuccessful in the playoffs. But Nags, what I do think is, and this is where you see more out of it from Matt LaFleur, you're seeing it directly into the play and the understanding from Jordan Love, right? Like you see more from his development on that side of it. Aaron Rodgers was well developed when Matt LaFleur got to town. There was nothing he had to do to develop that young
just
man
a little bit
as a player. He just needed to find ways to be able to motivate and then bring him in intellectually into the conversation. He wanted to know the why. I bet you ask Matt in a setting where he can, sit down and be a little bit more expansive, not just at the podium. I bet he'd admit that made him a better coach, understanding to teach the why, not just this is how you do it. Because you're going to get stressed on the why with Aaron. I think that probably helps ultimately into your coaching.
How could it hurt? Having someone asking you to drill down, and presenting ideas that maybe you aren't familiar with. Yeah.
Confrontation, I believe, is what David Bakhtiari said can bring, some positivity, some growth that you can develop better when being called on out. Now, my friend Armin Sarian, not a big fan of David Bakhtiari's situation going on with the Packers social media department, does not like him calling them out, saying that they were not doing a great job.
He was right.
Oh,
how can you be upset at David Bakhtiari for being right out loud?
You got to have this conversation with Armin. We got to bring you on for this exact. He tweeted today, Nags, right before we went on the show.
I saw
8:57. Our show starts at 9 a.m. 8:57. This man's digging up a tweet from 6 days ago to try to fight back at Dave Bakhtiari. He's got some vinegar in that argument.
Whatever. I hear music. Is that we have to take a break? What's going on? I thought we just got back.
We just got back. We got to take a quick break, so then we have the full time to be hanging out with Wayne Larrivee coming up here on the other side.
You got to teach me these radio ways. I got it. I'm on board now. I'm locked in.
I appreciate you teaching me the internet. This is
complimentary football, Billy. It's complimentary football. That's what we're doing here.
When we're playing complimentary football like this, we're hard to beat. It's Aaron Nagler and Billy Schmid on Carry the G Radio.
That's the power of love.
Here the G Radio rolling on final half hour coming at you. Aaron Nagler, Billy Schmid, and joining us, I believe, on the line. Not quite yet.
One quick more
Not
second.
quite yet.
User error back here. Hang on. I apologize.
It's quite all right. I'm used to it. I got to improvise. I got to tap dance in the pocket. My right tackle, let him slip through. Now I got to escape to the left side, find someone open downfield, deliver a strike. I'm good at it, Billy. It's what I do. It's what I live. It's how I roll.
Yeah, you lied saying that you weren't a good, elusive quarterback. You can get yourself up out of the pocket, make some plays.
I can get out of the pocket.
Some credit.
Making the plays part of it as maybe not quite as good. Not quite as good. I remember one day at practice, we were trying to run this play where I'm supposed to hit the back out of the backfield. I mean, that sounds like a really simple thing to do, right? But I kept throwing it behind him because he was turning it up, Billy. He was turning it upfield. And I was throwing it where he was rather than where he was going to be. And, for young, 14, 15-year-old Aaron, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
It took a few reps. Took a few reps to work that all out. But I got there eventually.
Well, it's all about the time on task, right? It's all about getting yourself more prepared, being able to be more mentally ready and dialed on into the process. But you were process driven. So you knew that your process was right. At some point, we were going to get the other side corrected, and then we were going to be able to hit that route.
100%. Just about getting on the grass, getting the reps. And you just got to believe in the process. And that's what I did.
That's exactly it. Yep.
That's what I did. That's why, Coach, when we got out there, game time, Friday night, I think our run pass ratio was 37-3. We would run the ball quite a lot. There was no reason. There was no reason to throw it.
You know what, though? You got to do what you're best at. You gotta find ways to be able to take
lean
advantage
into your strengths. Yes.
Yeah, what your team does best. And you know what? Maybe what your team does best is find ways to get the playmakers on your team the ball as quickly as possible. Now, sometimes that doesn't mean sitting 5-step drop, 7-step drop. We just gotta get the ball to the playmakers and let them go do stuff. Go help them out. Go be a facilitator, Nags. That's what we need to be able to do.
I facilitated the ball from the center to the running back. That's what I would do. I would make sure that the center quarterback exchange was as solid as possible, and then turn around and make sure the running back has got those good two hands.
Sure.
Put it in that bucket right there. Make sure it's there.
Yeah, he's got to take it though. Remember,
I got to carry out that fake on the backside, Billy. Don't get me wrong.
Because that one
to hide it,
you guys ran
that might be a bootleg. You never know.
Yeah, never was a bootleg. If I was watching the film, though, never ended up bootlegging it there.
Okay, a little behind the scenes here for you people. So we're here trying to get Wayne Larrivee on the phone. Billy's doing yeoman's work behind the scenes trying to make this happen. But I will say, if we don't end up getting Wayne, this will be the second time he's left me in the lurch. The first time being on Packer Transplants 10 years ago or something like that.
Oh.
At Cheesehead TV. We literally, to this day, if a guest stiffs us or doesn't show up or is really late, they Larrivee us. We have 100% adopted that term because when we very first started Cheesehead TV, Wayne was the holy grail, getting him on the show. It's never going to, and then it happened. He was going to come on the show. And then we called and he never picked up. And so for the whole rest of that show, and now really throughout the existence of Cheesehead TV, when a guest doesn't show, they've Larriveed you. So we're in the process here of being Larriveed.
Yeah, now I am gonna give Wayne some reprieve here because he texted me, said, I apologize, I got to tape the TV show today. 1:30 should work. So
TV show, yeah.
But now this.
We know where we are in the pecking order, Larrivee.
Way down, way down there. And also, I'll put some of this on inside my boy Hollywood Lance Allen. I think there's some of this issue as Lance probably got into a big conversation. Royal Rumble's only 2 weeks away, so he was trying to break down who Wayne thinks is going to be able to win the Royal Rumble. Could it be The Rock? Is he actually going to come back and fight Roman Reigns?
Wait a second. Hold on. Lance Allen is involved here? Well, now that all makes all the sense.
That makes a lot more sense in the
Lance
world.
Allen, can talk, your ear off about basically anything. But B, Lance Allen probably knows. I'm sure Wayne said, well, I'm supposed to hop on the radio with Nagler and Schmid. And the moment The moment Lance Allen heard that, he was like, "Oh no.
Yeah,
I am
hold on. We got a lot
commandeering
more
your
to talk
time.
about here.
There's no way I'm letting you go talk to those yahoos. I'm keeping you all to myself."
But he has says taping. He has sent back taping. Will call as soon as possible. So listen, as long as that taping goes on, there could potentially be quick misstep. Reset. Hold on. All right, let's pull out
These
the
things
IFP.
happen, man. These things
Let me reset this thing. All right, where are we going from? We're gonna reset it from the top. You redo it from the top. Okay, sounds good. Hold on.
Right from the top. Okay.
From the top. Okay, sounds good. And then
we don't need. You know what? We don't need Wayne Larrivee because we got Mike Witt throwing out a super chat here on the YouTube channel.
Mike Witt
saying, "I obviously hope they win, but if things don't go good Saturday, can we get a carry the G around draft time? That would be fun. Thanks, guys." There's definitely going to be some off-season content with Billy and myself. I don't know if it'll be here in this type of venue. I don't know if it'll be on the radio or if it'll just be a podcast. But Bill, there is no way on God's green earth that we're going through this offseason and not talking draft, not talking free agency, not talking offseason moves, not talking mini camp. There's no way that's happening. We will be doing something.
And that was a big error on my part here this past year because it just flew around. And then all of a sudden we're sitting here, we're like, wait a second, it's May 18th and Nagler and I haven't talked in like 5 months.
That's not good.
And the other part of it is, Nags, because I think there's more moves. There's 5 picks in the top 100 that we're already going.
There you go. There you go.
You don't have to tempt me with a good time on talking draft. All right. I already read Dane Brugler just fired off 2 rounds.
I saw that. Let's go.
Talk about rocket fuel. So very excited to be able to get into where and how they can piece into this roster. There's a lot of ammunition and they might find more picks.
This is a peek behind the scenes for all your avid listeners and viewers here on YouTube, because I'm just spitballing here. But what about Carry the G Radio live from the Combine? How about that action? That's right, Tim. I just said it on the air. Now you got to make it happen.
Now we got to do it. Yep.
We're going a whole step and repeat. We do live broadcasts from the Combine in Indy.
Deal.
Yeah. Who doesn't want that? Go sell it, people.
Yeah.
All those folks listening, and they got a huge place where people sit in cubicles and sell stuff for 97.3 the game. Make it happen, folks.
Just got a text from one of those people here. She said, ask when I was going to be off the air. I said 2:00. All right, sweet. I'm going to stop by. Must be stopping by with one of those sponsorships that's about to happen because of that exact deal. Us live from the Combine. And that's not going to listen. This is going to be hard investigative work that happens at the Combine, right? There's no doubt. Spicy shrimp cocktails till 4 a.m. going on with them. May want to, but
unless there's a source who wants to talk off the record and we get some seriously good networking opportunity.
I'm always down to clown, and the one part of it is I'll try to chameleon myself. I'll try to be as into the conversations as possible because sometimes my attention span is too bad. And I know that'll get you kicked out of the booth right there real quick. So I'll keep the investments to a minimum, dialed into the conversation, not spacing out on, the cover of a college basketball game, plus 3.5 that I'm trying to sweat on out here at 1 a.m.
I will say that's one of the best parts of the Combine, sitting in the bar at the end of the night with everybody else who covers the NFL. And there's inevitably college basketball on the television that everybody's kind of invested in, whether they have, a certain investment on the line.
Sure. Or if they actually care about being invested in the game or not.
In the actual teams that are playing. Yeah, right.
Yeah, because it's on at the bar. And then quickly you become dude, they got to be able to score here on this possession. Otherwise, it's over. How much of that is going on at the Combine of where it's just hurrying around and waiting for somebody really important to walk on in?
Not as much as there used to be. That used to be a big part of it about 10 years ago. But I will say that I remember when I was with Bleacher Report trying to explain that to people. I'm like, the whole reason to go to the Combine is to network. Yes, you can create lots of content. There's, availabilities, and there's certainly you're getting all of the kind of on-field stuff, although you could just watch that at home. But it's all about the evenings and the bars and running into people and meeting coaches, agents, because everybody's there. Every personnel guy, every coach, almost every coaching staff, every, prospect and their agents, and everybody is in Indianapolis for a week. It's invaluable. So you and we're gonna make that happen.
I love that deal. I'm fired on up. But more importantly, we got one more show coming up at least next week, Tuesday. And
yes, sir.
Win, you earn another one. That's where really this is coming like playoff checks for NFL players, right? Like each week, earn another one.
Get another one.
Do a Mike Holmgrenism and put that stack of money right there in the front of the table.
What a story.
Who doesn't like a little extra spending money?
It's not bad. Carl had a bit of his spending money on our super chat here on YouTube. It seems Saleh had LaFleur's number. Wilkes is the new DC. If so, maybe LaFleur has more success against the 49ers defense. See, I've been thinking about this. I got to think there's something to that, right? Because, yes, Saleh certainly seemed to have his number. But I also want to say it's real easy to have someone's number when you can just win up front. And that's the concern. It's about owning the line of scrimmage. And Saleh, as good as he is, and he is a phenomenal coach, if you can control, especially with 4 guys up front and do whatever the hell you want on the back end, it becomes really tough as an offensive play caller to try and work against that. Like, it's just really, really hard. So I think, there's something to the idea of like, it's a different DC. Okay, maybe LaFleur has a little bit more, success, but man, they got to block it up. They got to win up front.
Yeah, because whoever's calling the plays, Nags, and I don't mean to minimize what the coach has and the impact they do, because they have a massive impact on it.
Yep.
Nick Bosa is still over on that side. Fred Warner is still on that side, right? Like, I mean, a lot of the, as Matt LaFleur called them, freak shows yesterday, are still over on that side, and they've added more to it. So, like, there's only so many different times that you can call cover 2 or cover 4, certain man defense, right? It comes down to the dudes on the field, and their dudes are pretty damn good. So you're going to have to win some one-on-ones, especially on the offensive line, to be able to hold up for those moments.
You talked about a freak show. Yeah, the 49ers got freak shows. We got a freak show waiting on the line here. The freak show that is the voice of the Green Bay Packers, the best to do it, Wayne Larrivee, joining us here on Carry the G Radio. Wayne, thanks for making time in your very busy schedule.
Hey, guys. Thank you. Sorry I'm late. And I've been called a freak many times. And it hasn't exactly been a compliment. So,
well, this is a term of endearment, sir.
Kind of endearment.
Of endearment. Mm-hmm. So, Wayne, first I have to thank you. We got to go back a couple weeks here, because I know we didn't get to talk last week. And I do want to let you know, I don't know how this comes into your head. I don't know what the inspiration, like, you just put together these words coming off that Bears victory. The future is now. And that took fire on the internet. I mean, I saw so many people run with that as far as content creation goes. First of all, you got to come up with a way to monetize this stuff, because holy cow, you were everywhere last week. But I just want to thank you, because that's the stuff that lives forever. Remember that back in 2023 when it was the future is now, blah, blah, blah. People will remember that forever as Packers fans. So thank you for adding to an already amazing season.
No, Frank, thank you. I appreciate the comment. That's wonderful you'd say that.
Do you think about that? Do you think about that kind of stuff though in the moment, like Wayne, when you fire out the I had TOD, time of dagger, 43-33 on the game clock, 1:27 to go in the third quarter is when you ultimately killed the Dallas Cowboys with that one through the hearts. Like, does that ever cross your mind right after, like, that's a good drop, they're going to want to be able to circulate that one on a video? That's one that's going to play for a while.
Well, most of the time, and I said this to Tom Clemens when I got on the plane. I said, Tommy, and I've known him for a long time. I said, Tommy, the next time you're going to drop 48 on somebody, would you please give me a hint? Maybe I'll be a little more eloquent. It's one of those things. I mean, they kind of pop out. You have an idea, especially if you know there's going to be a big moment or whatever. Maybe you kick some ideas around, but it's nothing you write down or anything like that. It just kind of pops out.
Oh man, it was beautiful. And for Luke Musgrave to stay on his feet in that moment and be able to throw the daggers through, I like it. First off, Tommy, I'm learning more about your friend Tom Clemens, Wayne. That dude is, you want to talk about freak show of a human being. Tom Clemens might be a freak show of a human being that needs to stay in Green Bay. And we haven't talked a ton about what he's done directly to impact Jordan Love's game. And his footwork and that work at the line of scrimmage that we saw this weekend seems like exactly one of those reasons and directly correlated to what Tom's done.
Yeah, I think Tom on the pro level has really been immeasurable in helping Jordan get to the next level in his game. Now, Jordan's worked very hard, and he does have a coach out in California that he spends a lot of time with and has been training with for years and years. But Tom Clemens is giving him the same kind of base to work from, same kind of platform to throw the ball from, and philosophy to use as he did with Aaron Rodgers. And Tom was the big reason, in my opinion, Aaron became the quarterback he did. And here's another thing you should know about Tom. I mean, they brought him back and Aaron's last year, they needed a quarterbacks coach, and they brought him back, and he started working with Jordan Love. And I don't know if Tom was really keen about coming back for another year, but he decided to come back, and he wanted to stay because he thought it was worth working with Jordan Love. He thought, this guy is worth working with and building and see what we can make him into. And so that's one of the reasons why he's still on the staff.
I will say I was kind of surprised that he did stick around, because it did feel like a bit of a Ronin moment when he did come back to work with Aaron. I'll never forget his kind of reintroductory press conference when he said he was just sitting on his porch drinking wine with his dog, hanging out, watching the sunset. I'm like, you gave that up to come back to Green Bay and work with Aaron Rodgers, a guy who knows what he's doing. Like, I will say he's a different cat, and I'm really happy he did stick around.
Well, Max, I thought you were going to this place. Remember the first question in his comeback press conference after Green come back and with the quarterbacks? I think it was Bill Schmid asked him, big picture question, how did you get here? And Tom looks at him and deadpans, Delta.
He's just a different dude, man. I love him. I love him.
Dude is.
I love it.
Awesome.
Now, spinning it forward, looking at this matchup on Saturday night, Tom and company got their work cut out for them with this 49ers team, a defense that has been problematic, to say the least, to any Packers team or quarterback that's gone in there. How do you see this one playing out? What is the Packers' approach? What do they have to do on Saturday night to make this a game, let alone win it?
Well, and I haven't gotten into as much tape on San Francisco yet because I'm still building a board. But, I'm just now starting to get into the San Francisco tape. And I decided, okay, they played the Rams the last week of the regular season. Nobody played. Mm-hmm. They played the Washington Commanders the week before, and everybody beats Washington. So I went back 3 weeks ago and I'm starting to look at their Baltimore tape. And that's an impressive tape to watch. The two best teams in ball right there. And San Francisco was able to get after them. I'm not sure not San Francisco, Baltimore was able to get after them and really pressured Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy started looking like a young, near rookie quarterback. And this is the first time I've seen him look that way. But they got pressure on him. He threw it up for grabs. He panicked. And so that's the tape I've started watching on them. I'm not sure their offensive line is vintage. Their defense is loaded. I've never seen a stable of pass rushers this deep as theirs is right now. It includes Chase Young coming off the bench of all people. Wow. So you've got that going for you. Now, I voted for Christian McCaffrey for MVP, okay, over any of the quarterbacks. I voted for him. He's that good. And now, in addition to him, you've got Deebo Samuel, who can wreck a game. Brandon Ayuk is as good a slot receiver outside of CeeDee Lamb as there is in the game. And then you've got George Kittle, because when all else fails for the 49ers, who shows up and makes a play? George Kittle, number 85. And so that's they have more weapons offensively than Dallas did. They're deeper as a pass rushing team than Dallas was.
Yeah, they're overall better. That's for sure. No doubt about it. And you talk about those superheroes over on that side. I already know that there's one guy that's going to get talked about more than the players, Nags and Wayne. I like, Wayne, that you focus on the guys on the field, because Shanahan, LaFleur will get most of the conversation this week, but it's those Avengers, and Trent Williams can fit on in there as well, of those superheroes they have on the offensive side. That's what makes 13 seemingly look good throughout the season.
Yeah, it's like you were mentioning, you guys were talking about coaching and how much of an impact does it have. It has a big impact, but when it's all said and done, all the coaches can do is put you in a position, give you a game plan. The guys who walk out there on the field in between the white lines, they're the ones who decide it one way or the other. And I think McCarthy has a tremendous coaching staff in Dallas. That coaching staff couldn't do him much good. The way the Packers played that game on Sunday. This is the same thing. Yeah, there'll be a lot of Shanahan and LaFleur talk. You guys are asking, how do I think the game might go? If this were the Aaron Rodgers Packers teams of a couple of years ago, I have a pretty good idea of how the game's going. But this is a different team. And they're playing with a lot of confidence and youthful momentum. And so I really don't know. I don't think these guys are going to be intimidated by physicality and the usual ways the 49ers win their games.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point, because this is a team that hasn't been outside of that one Thursday night contest at home against the Lions very early in the season. This is a team that hasn't been beat up. This is a team that, unlike Packers teams in the past, we've seen get pushed around. I haven't seen that this year. Like, they've lost some games and it's been close almost every time, but I haven't seen someone come in and beat them up. They've really responded to bullies much better than they used to.
Yeah, I agree, and I think they're going to have to do that, and they know that. They're going to have to do that here in this San Francisco game, but I don't think that's something the guys, I'm talking about the guys now, the coaches may worry about it, but guys are not worried about it, from what I can tell. They're just looking forward to another opportunity to play some more ball.
That's the best way
exactly.
to be in it.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Wayne Larrivee joining us on Carry the G Radio. Wayne, we really appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much. And we will be talking to you next week, and we're going to be talking to you after a Packers victory. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go.
You got it.
There we go, Wayne. That's what I'm talking about. That's a capper right there. Some would say, Nags, that's a dagger. That's a finishing move right here for our show. Great way to finish it on out here today.
Absolutely the best. Well, Billy, I really appreciate, once again, 2 hours has flown by. How can we just you blink and the show is over? But I appreciate it, man. I always appreciate the opportunity to talk ball with you.
We got 3 more coming up. Well, 4 if we do one in between those 2 weeks. We'll do one for that practice week going into the Super Bowl. How about it?
I love it. I'm all in on this plan. I'm happy to be a part of it. Let's do it.
And we'll be back on Tuesday. More Carry the G Radio coming up next week. Aaron Nagler, Billy Schmid. It's been Carry the G Radio on the game.